Now, in a recent conversation, we were talking about wishing wells, and this guy says that they originate from holy wells, purely Christian. And I thought, are they? So I had to do a bit of research. So sacred wells are also called holy wells, and like I said, are often tied to a Christian saint. But many wells have been around long before Christianity arrived in Great Britain. And it's pretty amazing that there's still literally thousands of holy wells surviving in the British Isles. Now, some sacred wells and springs were thought to have healing powers. The water does help in healing, it's essential for life. The living water that plays the oldest music. But sacred wells have inspired everything from songs and ballads to fables and poems through the centuries and across cultures. Now, it seems that wishing well is a term from folklore to describe wells where it is thought that any spoken wish could be granted from the resident deities residing therein. Occasionally they were marked with wooden statues, possibly the god or deity associated with the pool or well. And many towns and villages have a well in the square in which passers-by drop coins in the hopes that their desires will be fulfilled. Now, as with most folklore that predates recorded history, finding one particular event or origin is almost impossible. But one thing's certain, that all major civilizations developed around fresh sources of water, so that it could be used for drinking, bathing and agriculture. And it's also known that the Celtic people were known to throw the armour and weapons of defeated enemies into bogs and other pools of water as offerings to the gods. And the Celtic Clutie well is linked to ancient healing traditions, and the English well dressing tradition appears to be related to this kind of ancient well veneration. So the habit of dropping pennies in ponds and fountains may stem from this. And clean water that came from springs or streams was vital to local communities, and structures were often built around these sources of the clean water to protect it. And these wells often became the village meeting place. But the power of clean water went far beyond meeting the daily needs of the locals, as many ancient cultures and religions ascribed magical qualities to clean water. I think much of this came from the notion that water housed deities or spirits, or had been placed there as a gift from the gods. So it became common practice to appeal to the well's divinity or spirit for a blessing by offering something in return. People would sacrifice coins and other valuables in hopes that the deity would look upon them in favour and grant their wishes. Possibly because water is a source of life and could be a scarce commodity on occasions, water was often thought to have healing powers, and wells became popular with many people drinking the waters, bathing or simply wishing over it. Some people actually thought that a wish would only be granted by the guardian or dweller of the well if the coin landed heads up at the bottom of the well. Tails up and it'd be ignored. So this is probably why they was used as divination, throwing coins in and reading the patterns and signs from the gods. Much of this may hark back to the ancient Nordic mythology, such as the Well of Wisdom. If you sacrifice something you held dear, it will grant you infinite wisdom. And Odin was asked to sacrifice his right eye, which he threw into the well to receive wisdom of seeing the future and the understanding of why things must be. And this well is said to sit at the root of the world tree, which draws its water from the well. So these springs and wells were often loaded with bacteria that could cause infection if it was ingested or used to clean wounds. So an interesting theory arose is that people may have unwittingly discovered the disinfectant properties of copper and silver, both traditionally used in coins. So wells that we used as wishing wells may have been safer to drink and less bacterial infections. Then you have cases reported that people with infections were cured when they drank from these purified wells. Now, the oligodynamic effect is the ability of metal ions to kill or inhibit the growth of microorganisms, even at very low concentrations. So this would lead to the theory of healing wells and springs. Now, a bit of modern day negativity to all this is the Fountain Money Mountain report is a study that estimates how much money tourists throw into fountains each year. And the report from 2006 was that tourists deposited just under £3 million sterling per year into wells and fountains. Christ. So obviously this has inspired some companies to even resort to using the wells as a means of getting charity donations. The money that the wells collect is taken out and donated to different charitable organisations, supposedly. So I suppose these modern wells don't really possess a deity or a god, as once believed, but apparently they're still beneficial to society or profit. But the question is, are these so-called well-wishers praying to a guardian spirit when they toss in their monetary sacrifice? And would the modern day well-wishers be willing to spill their blood or sacrifice an eye to see the fruition of their desires? Not likely today, eh? And apparently researchers made an observation that the coins found on sites were generally of little or no value as currency. This implies that the value of the coin did not correlate with the expected result. And even such objects as buttons and pins sort of reaffirm the belief that the value of the object did not coincide with the value of the wish. So did our ancestors think like that, or did it have to be of value what there was sacrificing? Or were the cheapskates like modern man?